Hey there, I'm Sam Bhagwat. Thanks for coming to GatsbyConf. I'm the co-founder and chief strategy officer of Gatsby, and I'll be talking about shipping your Gatsby site faster with incremental architecture. I'm going to just start off by explaining a little bit about what I'm going to be talking about and explaining sort of who this is targeted to. This is specifically targeted to people who are tech leads of Gatsby projects. It's also good for people who work with tech leads of Gatsby projects, or people who want to be tech leads of Gatsby projects in the future, or people who want to be the tech lead of part of a Gatsby project right now, or freelancers who are sort of by default the tech lead of their Gatsby projects. And that means I think there should be something here for everybody. What I'm going to be talking about is how your team's workflows are inside as well as between the systems that make up your website, and how you can build great architectures using incremental architecture, which is an approach to making hard architectural decisions during the project rather than postponing your project kickoff until you've figured that stuff out. It's also about how you can parallelize work between different systems, and I'll share some resources that we have to help you along this process. Now, to start off with, your website is made up of a few types of systems. So we've got Gatsby, right? Fast, secure, great DX. We've got Gatsby Cloud, fast builds, fast deployments, fast previews. Now that's a framework and a deploy and hosting platform. These are two of your website's components. But your website has other components too. Think about your headless CMS, your React components, your analytics, e-commerce. Your team's complex workflows tend to be between and not just within these different systems. So let me tell you a story, and it's hopefully a story about your work, especially if you're relatively new to being a tech lead or to Gatsby. A lot of your job as the tech lead is just to think about how these systems are going to work together. Maybe you chose Gatsby because of its CMS integrations, and Gatsby Cloud because of its build speed. Turns out you'll have to think about a few other things too. Your content editors probably want their changes to go live quickly, and they may want to preview their changes as well. Then other marketers might want to build landing pages in your CMS, and you'll need to support e-commerce. So you start figuring out how that will work, your data integrations, your cart checkout flow, and you realize that your e-commerce system isn't going to store all the data you need. You may want to handle custom fields on your products or product variants and go handle that in your CMS. You start adding analytics and you realize you've got a performance hit from your trackers and you want to mitigate that. So you can keep going here, adding search, auth, forms, all kinds of other features, right? But I think you sort of get the point here, which is that as you add systems and workflows together, that's how you get your architecture. And turns out you're the architect. If you're just realizing that now, today, congratulations. You're one of today's lucky 10,000. What does it mean for you to be the architect of a system? Well, one thing that junior engineers learn as they become senior engineers is that architectures are complex. The more moving pieces you have, the more things that can go wrong. We're here to help you, though. We wanted to help teams navigate the architectures that they're constructing, and so we've written a series of guides to help you along the way. Here's a list of them, and topics from e-commerce to choosing a CMS to optimizing your deployment and hosting. So let's kind of talk about three teams that have done this in the real world and built incredible sites with Gatsby that delivered great business results. Jackson, Strivectin, and WaveDirect. So I think these are going to help us move from just the architecture, sort of abstract architecture diagram stage to something that went into production, right? So this is Jackson, which is a men's jewelry brand. We have a blog post on this as well. Now, if you sort of look at their architecture, what they did is they started with Shopify as their e-commerce base. They stored their content in Contentful, and they built React components in Storybook. They actually, when they were starting off their project, they had a senior developer and a junior developer. And the senior developer tasked the junior developer to build out the components in React and in Storybook, while the senior developer worked on the rest of the architecture. And this actually enabled them to make concrete progress on the site while they were also figuring out some of the architecture and how the cart checkout flow would work and how they were going to handle rewards or discounts or some of the other sort of tricky parts of e-commerce. They also put on Heap for analytics, which let them test different product modules and see how effective they were at converting visitors to customers. Now Jackson built their Gatsby project in 2 months and actually doubled their conversions from 1% to 2%. For a lesson from Jackson, you can build React components in Storybook to make progress on your site while you figure out how your e-commerce is going to work. Strivectin, in some ways, this is a similar story. Strivectin is a skincare brand. They sell both in stores as well as online. And actually, when they started their project, they knew they wanted to do React. They knew they wanted to do Shopify. They were pretty sure about Gatsby, but they weren't 100% confident in that. And they weren't sure about their CMS. They didn't know about their hosting. 2 months in, as they were, again, building out components in Storybook, they were able to figure out those other pieces of the puzzle while making progress on their site. Now, this was a little bit scary for them. Instead of demoing pages to their clients, they had to demo their components. But what they found was that this workflow helped them move faster, and their clients were incredibly happy with the site that they built. Another interesting part about their site was how they handled the e-commerce flow, the sort of different vendors that they used, and how they integrated their data between Prismic, the CMS they used, to store extra fields like before and after photos for their products, with Shopify, their e-commerce platform, as well as then how they integrated Prismic with their components in Storybook to let them build landing pages in Prismic. While you're figuring out your CMS, you can make progress by building the React components you need. You can mock data in JSON if that's helpful. And similarly, Gatsby's GraphQL layer makes it easy to integrate data from different systems, CMS, e-commerce, and integrate them together into your UI. WaveDirect. WaveDirect is a Canadian internet service provider. They provide service in rural parts of Ontario in Canada. What they were focused on is getting people to look up the service on their address on their website, and then sort of connect to those folks that were within their coverage area to their sales team. And so the way that they did that was they used Sanity together with Gatsby to auto-generate pages, as well as optimize the SEO of their website. They found with Gatsby's performance, SEO went up significantly. On the analytics side, they used RudderStack to orchestrate their analytics systems and also improve performance with Gatsby. They found that they 4x'd their leads from before to after they shipped the project. And this was obviously a huge business result, and their stakeholders were incredibly happy. The lesson here that we'll pull out is that these modern analytics tools called customer data platforms, as well as product analytics tools, can provide these highly granular insights to your business stakeholders that do improve business outcomes. So what does this all have to do with incremental architecture, and what is this incremental architecture term that we've been teasing out? Well, incremental architecture describes the things that we've seen these teams do. Let's put this all together and kind of generalize from the specific lessons that these teams found to something that can help you with your project. Incremental architecture means that when it's possible, you can make the hard architectural decisions during the project instead of delaying the project start to make them. It also means you can parallelize work on different systems. You don't need to be blocked on another system on one system until another system is complete, right? You can put content in the CMS while you're building out your Gatsby site at the same time. Incremental architecture is obviously art, experience, skill. It's not necessarily a science, but here's a way of illustrating it. You can look at a traditional project timeline. In this project timeline, you do all the evaluation up front, sort of step by step. Then there's some delay between approval and kickoff, and then after kickoff, you sort of add the content to the CMS, and you develop the site. Then you do some launch prep, and then you launch it. And I mean, this is a fine way of doing software, but there's an even better way. And incremental architecture will help kind of illustrate that, right? So for example, you could evaluate these different systems in parallel. You could evaluate your CMS, your framework, your hosting at the same time, rather than having to do them one at a time. And often it's better that way because you can see how well they work together. You can mock your content during the initial development, which lets you parallelize adding content to your CMS with developing your site. And you could just jump, like the teams that we talked about were doing, into building components first, right? And evaluating along the way these are the other parts of your website, interleaving and parallelizing these project steps. Now let's do a before-after with the old sort of traditional project timeline and this new Gatsby timeline with incremental architecture. It's significantly faster, again, old and new. And that's kind of what we wanted to talk about here, is how you can take advantage of this modular architecture to not just deliver better business results, but do so in an accelerated timeline, really demonstrating the value of these new technologies to all the stakeholders that you have in your organization or with your clients. Again, your team's workflows are not just inside each system, they are between the systems, and that adds some complexity. But you can build great architectures using this principle of incremental architecture, which means making hard architectural decisions during the project rather than delaying the project start, and parallelizing work on different systems. Lastly, the great news is that we're here to help. We have Gatsby Concierge, which is a way that our team can share our experience with your team, whether that's architecture, whether that's build performance, site performance, whether that's choosing a CMS, or any of the other workflows that your team has to optimize. We're here to help you build a great Gatsby site that is going to deliver incredible business value for your company or your clients. Please contact us if this sounds interesting to you. We really look forward to hearing all the things that you build with Gatsby. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of GatsbyConf.
Ready for the live Q&A? Let's go!